We're good. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Union or Bust. We got organizing monster over here, Juan Perez, and your union brother.
How's everyone doing? Chris Lopez, your union brother on TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms. Special guest today, a returning guest, which is always really cool, Carolina Reardon. And she is basically the president of Hollywood for CalCare, one of the main people. So anyway, Caroline, people might have looked at the last episode with you, but what kind of introduce yourself again, give people a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Juan and Chris, for having me on again. Yeah, my name is Caroline O'Riordan, she, her, and I'm the founder of Hollywood for CalCare. I work in Hollywood. I've been working as like a writer's assistant, director's assistant, producer's assistant for the past 6 years. And I started this group to get the Hollywood unions on board with California single payer healthcare, also known as CalCare, which is a bill that's like a Medicare for all type bill that's backed by the California Nurses Association, which is a union of 100,000 registered nurses. And CNA has been like leading the fight for single payer in California for the last like 25 years. And so the group was formed about 2 years ago, actually after like the IATSE 2021 contract negotiations. I was really inspired by all the kind of like militant union activism going on there with, people kind of waking up to their collective victimization by the working conditions of Hollywood. And so I thought, let's get this workforce behind the bill to shine like a much needed spotlight on it, because the single payer healthcare movement has been kind of living in the shadows a little bit. It's been this inside baseball Democratic Party maneuvering cause, and I'm just trying to like break it out of the bubble. And I'm back here for a sad reason today because it died in the bubble just a few weeks ago. So I'm just back to talk about that and talk about what went down.
So the passage, CalCare was passed, and in or did it ever get on the floor of the? Kind of explain how that worked.
Yeah, definitely. And I will just say before I go into kind of what happened with the bill, my group made a lot of progress. For the past 2 years, we've been doing this like grassroots campaigning in the various Hollywood unions. And we actually got really far with IATSE. We got two IATSE locals in California, in LA, 871 and 705, to officially endorse the bill, which was that was the goal. And then we also got the California IATSE Council, which is like a legislative group of representatives from all the different California locals. They voted to support the bill in late April. And we also made a ton of progress with SAG. We made a few presentations. We were in the process of scheduling a presentation to their like government affairs committee. And then we also got the support of like 3 WGA board members. So we're just kind of like making the way through the Hollywood unions and like ginning up a ton of support grassroots as well. But so the latest iteration of CalCare was a bill called AB 2200, and it was introduced in February by the nurses, and the author of the bill, which was Ash Kalra. He's an assembly member from San Jose. And throughout the spring, CNA was racking up endorsement after endorsement. They got the California Labor Federation, who has supported the bill in the past, but as you know, they represent like 2.3 million workers across like 1,000 unions. They also got the California Teachers Association, the California Federation of Teachers. They had Unite Here, Local 11, UAW, Region 6. Just like the biggest CalCare coalition was getting behind this bill. There was a ton of really exciting momentum. It was no lie, not exaggerating, it was bigger and stronger than it had ever been. And that obviously was really scary to the Democratic Party, because they have they've always found a way to kind of pull the rug out from under CalCare. And just to back up a little bit, to the last 2 iterations of CalCare, which are kind of applicable because it's like the same legislators. In 2017, there was a CalCare bill backed by the nurses that passed two committees, and it was introduced in the Senate, and it passed the full Senate, and then the Assembly Speaker blocked it before it could get to the Assembly. And then in 2022, AB 1400 passed through two committees, and then the author pulled it from getting to the Assembly floor. So what was that kind of set the stage for if CalCare were to have gotten through the Assembly where it started this year, it would have been really historic because it was a bill that started in the Assembly, and the Assembly members that are in office right now have never had to vote on CalCare since they've been in office. So that's like 80 Assembly members. And CalCare, well, not CalCare, but single payer healthcare is on the California Democratic Party platform. So, and we were looking at CalCare's path as being victorious, at least getting through the Assembly, because the path through the legislature is, I'll describe this. So if a bill starts in the Assembly, it has to go through its committee of origin. So it's a health bill, so it starts in the health committee. So that's a committee of around like 15 members. And those are the members that have to first like do this whole analysis of the bill, and they have a hearing, and then the committee votes on it. And there's a whole hearing that's very public. If it passes through that, then it goes to the Appropriations Committee. And the Appropriations Committee is different than the Health Committee. That's where all bills that have like a fiscal impact go. So from all the different committees, if there are labor bills, transportation bills, healthcare bills, they all end up in the Appropriations Committee. And that is a backdoor or closed door committee where the 15 or so Assembly members of that committee kind of vote in secret. And then on the day of the Appropriations Committee hearing, the Appropriations Chair just reads off a list of what bills have passed out of the Appropriations Committee, and then what bills are being held in the Appropriations Committee.
It's almost like a secret filter.
Yes.
So just to get it right. So this is one of the most important bills to give health care to people who can. I mean, I said before we started, 65% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. People have trouble paying the rent. So all this is going on. And this health care bill is basically, I mean, for what I know, is to put more money back in people's pockets because they don't have to pay so much for health care. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll just continue unless anyone, please feel free to.
No, it just looked like it was like it goes into the secret filter where they try to hide behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So okay.
No, it's true. And so, CalCare activists leading up to these two committees were feeling really kind of cautiously optimistic because the chairs of both of these committees, of the Health Committee and the Appropriations Committee, have supported CalCare in the past. Actually, the chair of the Health Committee had voted for AB 1400, the 2022 bill, when she was in the Health Committee 2 years ago. So we had like a vote on record of her supporting the bill. And then in the Appropriations Committee, her name is Assembly Member Buffy Wicks. She's from Oakland. She was a previous CalCare co-author. So she co-authored AB 1400 in 2022. So we were very excited going into these two committees, being like, if we can get through these two committees, we're going to get to the Assembly floor where this class of 80 Assembly members has never voted on CalCare. And it's on the Democratic Party platform. So many of them have campaigned on single payer, backed by the nurses, what have you. And of course, as we all know, 87% of Democratic voters support single payer. It's a wildly popular policy. So yeah, we were able to squeak by in the Assembly Health Committee. We needed 9 votes and we got 9 votes. I was actually up in Sacramento for the hearing. It was CNA hosted a rally nearby the courthouse. They invited representatives from California Teachers Association, UAW, Working Families Party, just representatives from the CalCare Coalition came out strong, telling stories about how one of the representatives from the Teachers Association said that they sat down with Kaiser, and just the same as you had said, Juan, Kaiser tried to raise their rates 20%. And they literally told them, you have too many women who work for you, and women are more expensive to insure. So they were, and then you have too many women of color. They're more expensive to insure. So just, the absurdity was, on full display, but the CalCare Coalition was strong. So we passed the Health Committee, which was very exciting. And then we went on to the Appropriations Committee. And the main target was Buffy Wicks because she, like I said, she had been in support in the past. There's actually, I posted a video after she did what she did, but literally Buffy Wicks did an interview in 2021 with CalCare activist Adi Barkan, who some of your viewers, listeners might be familiar. He was an activist who was diagnosed with ALS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he devoted his deteriorating life to the Medicare for All cause. He teamed up with Bernie Sanders. He went on a tour all around the country. Just an incredibly inspiring person who also was, worked with the nurses for CalCare specifically. Yeah, she did a video with him in 2021 where she's just literally going through all the reasons why she supports California single payer, how, maternal, for mortality for Black women is so much higher than for women, for white women. Just, going through all the racial justice reasons why single payer is the only way forward. And she literally even says, like, I'm for single payer, we're going to do it. So I want people to hold me accountable when I'm the one who's got my hand on the red light or the green light for single payer. Cut to, a few weeks ago, this is around, I think like May 17th, 16th is when this hearing happened. Let me see, let me just make sure I get all my notes. In the lead up to the Appropriations Committee, we had like CalCare activists across the state calling her office, constituents calling her office, setting meetings with her legislative staff. One of our coalition partners, Healthcare for Us in Los Angeles, literally said, I have a note here. Buffy Wicks legislative director told us on the Monday of the week leading up to the Appropriations Committee that he had met with at least a dozen groups all in favor of AB 2200. And yet, when it came time for the Appropriations Committee vote, she read out on her little like auctioneer style read that she was holding AB 2200 in committee. So this was, incredibly upsetting, even though we knew that CalCare really was the most vulnerable here because of the lack of accountability, that it like killing a bill on appropriations. Now, the only person who has gone on record voting against CalCare is Buffy Wicks. So they don't publish like a vote of who voted for or against it in that 15-member committee because it failed. If it had passed, they would have given us like, the count of how many Democrats voted for it or, abstained from it. But because it failed, all we get is Buffy Wicks. So she's now out of like, let's see, it's like 100, there are 96 Democrats in the California legislature. So that's like 62 assembly members are Democrats out of 80, 32 state senators out of 40 are Democrats, and then we have Gavin Newsom. So that's somewhere around like 95, 96 Democrats. Instead of any of them having to go on record voting for this, she was the only one who fell on the sword. So
when you said holding in committee, use those words. So holding in committee means I'm killing it? Failing. Yeah, killing. Yeah. So holding is killing.
It is. It's
okay.
Blocking, it's preventing it from continuing through the legislature that session. So, I mean, even so, like the language is kind of like a smokescreen in some ways of saying instead of it failing, it's just being held. And so like I think around like 30 to 40% of bills end up getting held in committee, and they just kind of disappear without any explanation, any accountability for what really went down. And so I want to, before we get out of the Appropriations Committee, I want to go over the reason why this is so scandalous is because the Appropriations Committee, as I said, deals with like the fiscal impact of bills. So they have to kind of like keep a tally of the fiscal effect of what all these bills together would have on our budget. And the thing about CalCare is that it is not a budget bill. It is a single payer healthcare policy bill only, which was done strategically because in the past, actually the last iteration of CalCare, AB 1400 in 2022, kind of at the last minute, the bill's author was forced to like attach a funding mechanism to it because he kept hearing this, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? So it's kind of one of those like catch-22 situations where people will shake their finger at you and say like, I'm not voting for this unless you tell me how you're going to pay for it. But then like you don't, it's like you just really need to pass the policy first, and then you can figure out the funding later. And so CalCare was strategically introduced as a policy only bill. And so that means that once the policy would have passed, what would happen next is that then California would take that passed policy and use the bill to apply for waivers from the federal government to basically take all the federal dollars that go into our like Medicare and Medicaid systems in the state. And then you get a waiver to start, instead of having those go to these federal programs, for them to start going into the CalCare system. And then after that, you then need to make up, so that's about 40 to 50% of healthcare spending already in California is through these federal programs. The rest of it you have to make up through raising taxes and coming up with like a progressive taxation policy. And that is up to the legislature. It's up to the legislature to then say, how are we going to fund a CalCare system? And they do that. It's their responsibility to figure out a progressive taxation, which of course that's the idea, is that, the lower class, poor class, working class people in poverty aren't going to end up paying more than they're paying now under a CalCare system. It would mostly be a progressive taxation system. But so then after getting the federal dollars, after the legislature coming up with a financing system, then like after that policy gets voted on by the California electorate. So that would go to like a ballot initiative or something. So we're talking about an implementation of a CalCare system that is at least 2 to 3 years down the line. So this system would have no impact on the current budget deficit. I don't know how much you guys are aware of that. California is now struggling with this deficit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Buffy Wicks used the 2024-2025 budget deficit as an excuse for blocking CalCare this year. And so even though it's not, and she knew it wasn't, and we had meetings after meetings with her where we were explaining that that wasn't the case. And so what activists and CNA are left to believe is that this was a pure political maneuvering done by the California Democratic Party, led by Governor Gavin Newsom and Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, who, of course, all three of these people, Buffy Wicks, Rivas, and Gavin Newsom, have all shown support for single payer in the past. But when it comes down to actually putting it through the legislature, they all figure out a way to get out of it. And, we were expecting this. I was trying to educate my followers and my members about the like acute possibility that this was going to be where it was killed, because now that it's gone, none of these 80 assembly members have to go on record. They can just wait till next year or whenever, or whoever's out of office. But, the reality is, I'll say this, I was kind of told this in confidence, but one of my comrades who I organize with was told by CNA at the health committee hearing, it's tough because we're fighting a shadow war with Newsom. So this really is, it's understood by CNA and it's understood by activists that this is Gavin Newsom blocking this policy and keeping it as far away from him as it can possibly be. So, it's over. It's like the fight is over for the year. We can go into kind of like next steps, but he really got himself out of a tricky situation, especially if, whatever's going to happen in the lead up to November. If this bill had gone through the legislature, it might be sitting on his desk in October. So,
Do you think, I haven't said anything.
I know, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of quiet. No, I'm just like, obviously to us, it's a no-brainer to pass something like this because 87% of Democrats want it and 50-something% of Americans want it. So by passing it, wouldn't it make you more popular and it'll make it easier to win elections after that? So I guess it becomes like which is more, that which is passing something that's popular and then makes it easier to win elections because you're a popular person. Or the other thing is that holds it back is funding from healthcare insurance companies, the medical system. Does that outweigh the benefits of passing it? Like, is the threat that bad? Like, are these pharmaceutical industry, healthcare industry, tycoons, are they that powerful that if Gavin Newsom passes it, he'll get taken out of office? Is that like that's where I'm at. Like that's where, because to us it's common sense. If anything, you'll become more popular. Look at FDR. He passed positive policy, good policy for workers. He got reelected 3 or 4 times. So, what do you think? Do you like where? That's where I'm at in my head. Like, why? How does that? Which one's worse? Like, are they that bad? Is the pharmaceutical industry, healthcare lobby that bad?
Yeah, I mean, I just to kind of put some numbers in it. This Healthline report was done in 2021 that Gavin Newsom, since the beginning of his career, had that Blue Shield, which is an insurance company, has contributed nearly $23 million to
Oh,
Newsom's campaigns and special causes. And this report was done because Newsom awarded Blue Shield like a COVID contract. So it's like they'll fund his like homelessness pet projects and stuff. It's like it's not just direct campaign contributions, but it's like them working together to make money for each other.
gotcha.
Which yeah, is like that is how the government works and like the corporate oligarchy, that they're all just helping each other out and scratching each other's backs for these policies. But I mean, I'll just go off a little bit on my like political analysis is that, you know, Democrats have been using this issue to get elected now for like 40 years. There's video of Barack Obama saying that he supported single
Nancy
payer.
Pelosi.
Yeah, yeah, Nancy, well, now she's like the number, but
Oh
even
yeah.
like Jerry Brown, he ran for president in 1992. I saw something he was saying on the presidential campaign in 1992 that he supported single payer healthcare. It's like, I think, guess where to start. This is a incredibly popular policy that benefits Democrats to say they support because it's popular and people vote for them if they say that they want it. You know, Bernie Sanders won the California 2020 primary by 450,000 votes more than Joe Biden. CNA backed Gavin Newsom for his gubernatorial campaign because he was stumping for a single payer and promising to pass the policy once he took office. But the reality about passing, and this is me getting a little political theorist-y, is that single payer healthcare is like the tip of the spear for like a truly transformational shift in power in America. If we can take health, we've talked about this when I was back here before. We all agree. If you can take healthcare back from your boss, you can basically take everything back from your boss. It is, you know, it's a tool wielded by the ruling class against the working class to keep them in low-paying jobs, to you know, dangle the threat of homelessness, you know, over them. If you demand better working conditions, we'll take away your health insurance. So it's like a corporate class warfare thing that I am slowly kind of starting to realize, and we can maybe have a little bit of a discussion about this, is the way that the Democratic Party actually is never going to give us this. Like I am kind of coming to this realization that if Buffy Wicks can in one breath talk to Adi Barkan and then he dies, you know, he died last year and then he's dead and now she's flipping on him because he's dead and because it doesn't matter. You know, it's like, if she can turn on it, if Gavin Newsom can turn on it, if our like single payer champions can turn on it, because they won't face consequences, I just don't know if the Democratic Party, like, I just don't think they're ever going to do it. And to take it here, it's like, this is the same party that is funding and supporting a genocide is keeping healthcare from us. It's like they're the same people and it's the same interests. It's like prioritizing war over health. And like the Democratic Party just invited Netanyahu
I
to come to
saw
the
that.
conference. It's like that's Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries both signed that letter.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about people that are not on our side. And I'm a bit at a loss of like how to proceed because my theory of change about getting behind CalCare was like I'm a socialist and you don't stop fighting for like single payer because it's the right thing to do. It's like you don't take your eye off the policy, you just keep fighting until you win. But it's like fighting with the Democrats for this is like I just feel like there has to be another way or something. Like we've got to figure out a different way because they're just going to stab you in the back like over and over and over again.
Well, I think of you're talking about Wicks. She has no shame
Yeah.
to, and other people, Gavin Newsom, no shame, supporting something and then I guess in a way backstabbing all the people who were helping him, like the nurses and, people getting him elected. However, that's why we have this podcast. We have this podcast because we want to put a spotlight on what happened. And I don't think the general population knows that holding a bill in committee is actually killing a bill in committee, and that there's a process to kill and filter. And they and in a way it's kind of done in the dark because like you said, unless it passes, you don't know how it got voted upon, right?
Yeah.
So if it doesn't pass, they don't have to disclose that. So maybe, giving, this insight to people might, let people know like
Yeah.
what is going on.
No, I think it's a big ass monster. It's Goliath and David. Sorry, David and Goliath are here. Like I tell Chris all the time, and I'm sure you've seen the podcasts that how I go on my rants about the Democratic Party. We're supporting Democrats. We give them money. The unions do. The corporations that we're trying to organize are also supporting the same Democrats and giving them money. So now the Democrats saying, well, I'm going to take money from the unions and the corporation. Oh, I'm in the middle. That's a conflict for sure, like if there's ever one. So I think we're always going to be bumping heads in this way because the Democrats, they have, like Chris says, they have no shame because they rely on the fear of, oh, you want Trump? Like if you say something critical of Biden or Newsom at this point, it's like, oh, but you want Trump. Oh, you're a Nazi. Oh, yeah, like you're a Putin puppet and XYZ. And you're like, wait, I just said that he should have passed CalCare. What the, they blame everything on Russia and Putin because they have no, but they rely on the fear tactic, which is, if Trump comes in office, he's not going to leave office. He said that he's going to be a tyrant and this and that. He's going to suspend the Constitution. That's all fear tactics. He was already in office for 4 years. We survived that. We didn't have World War III then. I'm just saying. Now we're getting closer to World War III. Like I'm talking to people that are like, oh, but Trump. I shared that picture.
Yes, I was just thinking
Remember the
about
picture
that.
so the picture of the person on the floor like dead.
It was like one of those
It was like a Palestinian
police,
person
like a police
outline.
Outline.
Yeah,
Like
of the
police outline.
Palestinian on the floor dead, and then somebody like, oh yeah, but did you want Trump to ban Muslims? It's like, what the fuck?
72, I think someone posted, shout out to Queen of Palestine, but she posted that 71% of the people killed in Gaza are children and women.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's these people have no shame. Like that, these people in California, the Democrats, they kill this bill, right? Knowing that it's extremely popular and it'll only help the base, it'll help them. In an election year, Biden's funding this genocide, double downing on it, doing what he has to do. They're inviting Netanyahu to Congress. They're double downing on it. They have no shame. They're relying on that fear. But I feel that this year is people are not taking it anymore. They don't give a damn anymore. We interviewed Nina Turner, Senator Nina Turner, and we
Senator.
talked about that. Like how, yeah, people are not buying that lesser of two evils argument anymore. because we already survived Trump for 4 years. So yeah, it's gonna get worse. I get it, but okay. I talked to this one guy, this one union guy at the when we Chicago,
Oh yeah.
um, labor notes.
Mhm.
There you go, labor notes. We went to labor notes. Yeah, I got this
You
shirt
got
out
this
there.
as nice shirts.
Yeah. And then he was telling me like he's traveling the country trying to basically get voters for Biden and the senators, whatever. We have to save these seats. And then he's talking about this movement of students and colleges and this and that, right, for Palestine. He's all like, Juan, we're about to lose democracy. And I'm like, what like since when? Since when does my vote really matters in this primary? I literally went to the Philadelphia for the convention in 2016 and I saw them ripping that nomination for Bernie Sanders. I saw all the cheating. I saw the Craigslist ads that the Hillary campaign had about getting people out there to the convention so it could look like she had supporters. They were paying people to show up to the convention. We were all Bernie supporters. We all paid out of pocket. We were fundraising, and then she had to pay people. Anyways, what I'm saying is, what democracy are you talking about? If it was true democracy, if 87% of Democrats want CalCare and it doesn't get passed, that's not democracy. So
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying. That I think right now, though, they expect us to be fearful still. They expect us to fall in line like, do you want Trump? At this point, I tell people like, yeah, and then I'm gonna get my Trump hat and MAGA and I'm gonna wear it. I don't care. Like I don't care to piss these people off that much because they've been drinking the Kool-Aid too much. I think people that talk like that at this point, they're privileged because they're not living paycheck to paycheck and they're not hurting in the streets. They're like something like CalCare is only gonna help the most vulnerable the most. Everybody will benefit, but the most poor people will benefit the most. So just like a union contract will benefit the most vulnerable the most. So that's what I'm telling people. Like another example of like corporate greed and all this stuff. Last week, I'm not going to get into the details because we filed the grievance. I was doing property checks, like via visits in the field. I got into it with with a manager in one of the companies of workers that we represent, and we got into it. And I ended up, and we filed the grievance. They're like, all right, whatever, because of what he did. You'll see what happened after we post on social media. But one of my coworkers is all like, I don't want him to lose his job because he probably has a family, has kids, and this and that. And then, but he's anti-union. And then I told him, okay, that's true too. But this is the guy that's anti-union that's holding the workers back from making a living wage. What about the workers that live paycheck to paycheck under him? What about them? They have families, they have kids. So, no, these Democrats, we don't have to care about them anymore. They have to fear us that we will pull the vote. Just like the uncommitted votes that are happening across the country, we have to do that. Because if we just give them our undying loyalty, then they're going to continue to do what they do always.
Like support something and have no shame.
No shame.
No shame. And what's worse is that they have no shame and they have so much arrogance.
Yeah, they're arrogant.
So you have no shame and complete arrogance and disregard for your fellow human beings.
Well, you seen like Biden. I saw those clips where he would tell black people, "If you don't vote for me, you're not black." And like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then when he's talking to a construction worker, approaches him at one of his rallies and questions him and asking questions. Oh, if you don't like me, then vote for Trump. It's like that's how they think of us. Like, well, fuck off if you don't like what I'm saying or doing right now. Instead of I hear you, it's worth something out. No, they're arrogant as hell. So that's why. And you say we don't know how we're going to do this. That's why me and Chris talk about a labor party. We need to start something to where it becomes a threat. We don't have to win. We just have to become a threat. Then they'll start listening. They're like, oh man, they're going to start taking our power away. Just like organizing workers, until you organize the workers and they become a threat to the establishment or to the company, that's when they'll start listening. So it's the same thing. So what do you think? Let's start a labor party, Caroline.
I know. Well, I think, I'm part of a really wonderful coalition of CalCare single payer activists in Los Angeles. The CalCare struggle is kind of a fight between like Northern California and Southern, and down here in LA, we're like the scrappy like ACAB, like are like the anti-war, like pro single payer, anti-corporate oligarchy group. And then, in the North, we battle against similarly, like it's just the entrenched political class who are just not super radical. But CNA, I don't know how to start a labor party, but I think that the National Labor Network for Ceasefire is a great place to start. CNA is part of this union network that called for a ceasefire together. They include the UAW, United Electrical Workers, National American Postal Workers Union, Association of Flight Attendants, International Union of Painters and Alliance Allied Trades, National Education Association. So those are like 9 main unions. And then there's over 200 unions and organizations across the country that has signed onto it. And I mentioned our single payer scrappy bunch is that we're kind of in this phase of like big picture deciding like what to do next, because we have this wonderful ally with CNA where they're the most radical union I know. I mean, they have an entire single payer Medicare for all like paid group of people, a whole like people dedicated to passing CalCare and Medicare for all nationally. And they came out for a ceasefire. These are people that if they turned on the Democratic Party, Democrats and the rest of the country would really listen. UAW is now one of those organizations. The spotlight is shining on UAW right now with Sean Fain. I think this is an untapped power that they really need to start tapping into and start using their leverage in backing candidates that are okay with leaving the Democratic Party and forging a new path. Because, I mean, it's like the Democratic Party, it's over. It's like, all it is for so many people is just a sport. It's like this upper class, educated white sport of people like watching the Trump trial and like me literally trying to get single payer, like people who support single payer who work for news outlets, trying to get them to cover this issue and then being too busy because of the Trump trial. It's like the sport of politics is sucking the air out of actual progress that would actually uplift, the multiracial working class and poor. And so, I don't know how to do it, but I'm glad I know you guys. And I think we've got some serious figuring out to do. And
For disclosure, Chris was at the Democratic Party dinner last night,
no,
taking pictures and rubbing elbows. I told him, Chris, what are you doing? But
they're not all bad, but it's
he's eating chocolate mousses.
Yeah, the chocolate mousse was really good, I have to admit. But
I mean, after all, as a Democrat, like some of the best politicians are Democrats. It's just like the party itself, I think, is gotta.
Yeah, I think it's the infrastructure, and the people withhold that infrastructure, and people once they get into those dinners and they rub elbows, they love it. And they don't want to get away from it, because I do believe that people want to be loved and want to be part of the team. And then once you get invited to the team, you're like, you don't want to change it. You're like, well, I'm here now. Especially, I'm not going to lie, especially maybe when you do come from it's one thing when you come from privilege and you're part of it, then you're disconnected anyways. But when you're a poor person and you make the team, sometimes they just stay there. And they're like, dude, but I'm here now and I can support my family and all this stuff. But I think me and Chris are at the point of our careers and lives where we don't give a fuck. Like, we're going to say all of this, and if it costs us our jobs, which I don't think it would, but if it did, I think we'd be fine. We can survive because we've been doing really good work. Chris is a really good union rep, and I'm a really good union organizer. I've won campaigns. He's won so many grievances to where we have the respect, not only of our unions, but the communities, our internationals. So we can say these type of things because we have credibility. We're able to. We're always, when you're on the right side, that's all that matters at this point. Like, what do we have to lose at this point? Well, I'm set. We're already in our. I'm in my late 30s. You're in your late 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point though, we're like, nah, we're gonna talk about these issues. We're gonna talk about ceasefire. You talked about that letter. We were the organizers behind the scene here in San Diego, part of the group that helped organize and pass the ceasefire resolution with our labor council here in San Diego. So we're down. We're I don't care who it bugs or who it annoys because we're on the right side. We know we're on the right side.
No one wrote a book about anyone that was safe.
Yeah.
Stealing his line.
Yeah, I said that like 5 years ago, and Chris has been saying it
stole
since.
it.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think we have to support good people wherever they're at, whether they're a Republican, a Green Party, a Democrat. But we also have to start creating something different to be the real threat and support them too. I talked to one of my friends. He's a city council member. I'm not going to drop his name yet, maybe later. But I told him, like, hey, man, if we started a labor party, are you down to get drafted? Like, I would draft you. You're going to be the first one, and you're going to be the example. But once I draft you, you're going to win because labor can't turn their back on you. It'll be ridiculous for labor to not support the labor candidate. And then guess what's going to happen? LA is going to have a candidate. San Francisco is going to have a candidate. New Jersey, and then that's how it's going to go. It's going to be a wildfire. It's going to be a movement. It's because people are fed up. Congress has like a 20-something approval rating. Like, what the fuck? Like, all these institutions have so low approval rating. Labor has the highest approval rating out of any institution or organization. So I think it's now or never. If we don't take advantage of this moment of starting a labor party, then we're never going to do it. So that's why we're having these conversations, though. It's just loosely, of course. But I don't know. Maybe behind the scenes, we're already talking to people. Who knows? We're just going to leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, I am hoping, personally, I hope that CNA comes out like next week and says, Ash Kalra, and we are introducing a new CalCare bill in January or even like December, the first date that it's possible to introduce a bill. And then we start now getting all the band back together and telling, the reality was that it wasn't strong enough this time. We did not come out the gate with like a rally. It did not pierce the conversation. Obviously the conversation has been, there's been a lot going on, but it's like, if we really got CalFed, if we got IATSE, if we got the teachers to mobilize their members in a way that made it really undeniable from the day one of the legislature, I still don't know if it would pass. It's like they still could do the same thing, but we just expose them even more, hopefully, and maybe give people a bit more of a reason to leave the Democratic Party. So, I'm not stopping my work with Hollywood for CalCare. In mid-April, we had like 700 followers on the Instagram. Yesterday, we have like 820. So we've gained like hundreds of followers in a month, and people are mad. And I think that seeing and exposing the way that the Democratic Party did this to this policy is powerful, and it wakes people up and it gets them engaged, and it makes them realize they're not just going to give this to us. If we really want this transformational policy to pass, I have to roll up my shoulders and really get involved, because if I don't, no one will, or not enough people will. And the only way to pass CalCare is for the entire state to get behind it, so that it's our side is more powerful than their side, and they have $1 trillion. So,
they talk about the blue wave, like, oh, the seats, it's numbers. They always talk about these numbers. And when you first started, you're talking about how many Democrats are in the state assembly. What's the proportion? What's the proportion of Democrats in the Senate? What is the proportion? You have a Democratic governor, right? Supposedly, right? So we got the numbers.
Yep, we have literally a 2/3 supermajority in the assembly. So there's 80 assembly members, 62 of them are Democrats, and a bill only needs 41 votes to pass. So we have a 20 vote wiggle room for all those conservative Democrats who don't want to pass stuff. And then in the Senate, there's 40 seats, and 32 of them are Democrats. So that's like 75% of them basically are Democrats.
And
And
and and healthcare, who is it hurting the most not having access to healthcare? You know,
I
is it
mean,
is it, it's isn't it's black women, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Black women are the ones that are suffering the most. And, you know, if this is the party that's supposed to, you know, fight for equality, it's being undermined. So,
yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, that's such a perfect example where the Democratic Party, specifically towards Black people, uses and abuses Black people. They promised all sorts of things to make Black people come out in numbers to save Joe Biden in Georgia, to save him in all these different states. And what are they doing now since taking office? Funding the police. And what has happened since Joe Biden took office? Every single year, deaths from police violence have gone up. And so they claim to support policies that uplift and protect Black people, and yet they do exactly the opposite once taking office. I mean, this is a whole nother thing, but I mean, we're seeing the complete militarization of our police force, where Eric Adams just announced he's building a $225 million cop city in New York City, on top of the Atlanta cop city. There's other ones across the country. I mean, we're seeing they are prepared. I mean, this gets into whatever, but they're investing in police. And because they know that people are so sick of what's going on, and that the systems are not working for us. And so the only way to prevent us from, I don't know, it's like getting what we want is to just increase our incarceration and to make it, to penalize us for speaking out against genocide. It's scary. And
And that's why I'm really against war.
yeah,
Oh, besides the fact that it's wrong, it's bad, but it's also like, don't, hey, idiots, don't you get it? What we do over there, it's gonna come back here. We invest in the military and drones and tanks and bombs. What do you think is gonna happen back home? Then we're gonna invest in the cops and make them stronger, make it more militarized, take away our freedom of speech. To what? Because they don't want us to stand up and fight. Because once we do, we can burn it down, and we're gonna fight for what is right. But no, look at what they're doing right now. They're trying to make everything illegal. They're taking away our freedom of speech. They're taking away TikTok. Why are they taking away TikTok? Because of China? China owns everything. These cell phones are made in China. Everything is China. Walmart is all China. Like, they own our bonds. They own our country. What are you talking about? And then they're talking about privacy and this and that. Mark Zuckerberg testified in Congress because he was giving away our information. What are you guys talking about? So our information is already given away. We've already accepted that. We understand that. TikTok is no exception, I guess. But it's because we're finding out what's going on in Gaza. That's why. They're like, oh man, it's not about the kids. So check it out. Check it out since you're here too. My girlfriend likes watching Bill Maher. And to me, obviously, he's a fucking
Scab.
liberal scab, right? Okay, so and then I was just watching it. 'Cause sometimes I just watch what she watches just to see. And then he was talking about the TikTok ban, but the way that he was framing it was, oh, look, the kids do selfie videos, eat Tide Pod challenges, and this and that. That's what's getting banned. Oh, it's not a big deal, haha. So he minimized he minimized the banning of TikTok to something stupid. Only kids do Tide Pod challenges. And that's what I told her. I'm like, do you realize what he's doing right now? So that the average person watching the TV is like, oh yeah, what do we need TikTok for? It's just a bunch of kids doing stupid shit. But I'm like, no, they're minimizing that on purpose so that you're okay. They're manufacturing consent so that you're okay with the TikTok ban. But see what we're faced against, these challenges, is like everything's against CalCare, giving everybody health care. Everything's against stopping the war. So we're facing like these big old monsters. But guess what? Back in the day, I forgot who named us this, but they named the working people the monster. Guess what? The monster is standing up again. It's waking up. And we're taking the power back. Look what's going on across the UC system. I just got an email this weekend or on Friday that now the postdocs UAW at UCSD is going to go on strike on Monday. And I'm like, holy shit, they're going on strike in every campus because of what's going on with the protests and the cops. And so I think we're waking up. I think we're had enough. People have had enough. Living paycheck to paycheck is like, it's no longer the just suck it up kind of mentality. It's more the, yeah, maybe I don't have to take this anymore. We just did an episode right before this one earlier with some of my workers that I helped organize Encore. They're the AV technicians in hotels. And then we just talked to them about what's going on and how does the company treat them. And they just said, like, dude, we've had enough. Like, we've all had enough. We're fed up with this shit. We're fed up with being taken advantage. We're fed up with being treated like gear. We're nothing better than just this adapter that we sold to this client. We're just another number. So if that's what they're saying to me right here in their faces, and these are educated, smart guys, I'm sure everybody's fed up at this point. So I think that's where we're at. The monster woke up. Organizing monster. Hashtag.
Organizing monster.
Trademark.
Hashtag. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
go on my rants.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good.
So what's the next step? So you said hopefully you guys start regrouping,
Yeah.
get the band back together.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways we had really made so much progress, and now, like I said, we do have this proof for all of our supporters that this thing isn't going to pass itself. So get back in the race, get on board and help us do this. It was kind of a sprint for the last 2 years, if I'm being honest. Kind of CalCare kind of took over my life, and so while we wait to see, us activists in LA are going to meet with the nurses, going to kind of regroup about strategy and see what is next for the bill. So the next couple months might be a little low key. Hopefully we can enjoy some summer, but getting back to it with whatever the new strategy is, just kind of figuring it out and continuing.
You were talking about TikTok, and I was talking to Juan in the car. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but there would be no Gaza right now if there wasn't social media, if there wasn't independent journalists, if there wasn't people getting the word out on TikTok. I think the establishment's been so used to putting things, MSNBC, Fox News, but there's a lot of distrust now. People are looking at podcasts or looking at that authenticity of what's going on. We're getting the word out. And they don't want to ban TikTok because of privacy. Juan talked about Mark Zuckerberg talking about,
They sell our
it's
information
not
like it's candy.
it isn't. It's about things they cannot control. That we're a thorn in the Democratic Party, even though I went over there, but I'm organizing.
Chocolate mousses.
Sometimes you got to organize the unorganized.
That's true.
And then I ran into Ashley, who's going to help with casino night. Come on.
She's
Okay.
cool.
Hey,
Right.
come on.
You're doing God's work.
I'm doing,
Yeah.
and who set it up? Union workers.
Oh, that's true. My members.
So,
Yeah.
hey,
We all start somewhere. We're all on our journey.
See, Carolyn, that's why she's coming on for a third time.
No, but I think healthcare is one of the biggest issues, period, because of what you said earlier. If we can tackle healthcare and give it back to the people, it's a power shift. It'll give the power back to the worker. And guess what? We're going to take everything else back. So that's where it starts, is healthcare, because everybody needs it. Life is health. Like we talk about mental health. This is also, everything's health. So if you're not good, and then if you go to the doctor and then it bankrupts you, now you're even more broke and more poor. Now you're in the streets. And with the rising costs of everything, we're all one medical bill away from bankruptcy, from homelessness. So that's why I think tackling healthcare is the core issue, and it should be the core issue for labor too. Labor needs to wake up and support universal healthcare. We get healthcare, more workers go on strike, more workers start organizing because they wouldn't have that fear that the bosses would dangle healthcare over them. They'll be like, fuck it, if I lose my job, I still have healthcare at least. But that's why it'll only empower workers. Unions will only grow and get stronger, and we take the power back. So, I think healthcare is one of the most important things that we should be fighting for. when you emailed me, I was more than happy to respond and be like, yeah, let's bring you back on. We're not MSNBC or CNN or whoever else that said that they're too busy covering the Trump stuff. I don't even care about Trump. I don't even care that that he got indicted or to me, I'm like, he's not going to go to jail. He's going to win the presidency. What are you talking about? These people don't go to jail. If anything, it's only going to strengthen him and his base, and he's only going to fundraise off of this, if anything. So that's how I look at that. I didn't even talk about it. I didn't even post anything about the Trump stuff on social media because to me, it's low-hanging fruit. That's not the real problem in America. This
It's
is
the
the real
sport.
problem.
Yeah, it's the sports. It's just people being on their, watching TV while they make dinner and saying, "Oh, we got Trump finally." And it's like,
Whatever happened to like when we were in high school and it was cool to go counter culture and counter the mainstream and counter authority. And we used to listen to NWA rap and all this rock music where we'd be like, yeah, fuck the system. Now all of a sudden these same people are here, not you, Chris, and Democratic Party dinners and rubbing elbows. And they're like, they think they're cool right now, taking the picture with city council members and the mayor. And I'm like, and supporting Joe Biden. How is that cool? Like, how is that cool? Like,
not.
up is down, down is up, black is white, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
set the record straight together.
Yeah.
I didn't take a picture with any city council members.
Well,
I took a picture with Ashley, who's helping us with casino night.
oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, speaking of casino night, we'd love to have you here,
Yeah.
Caroline. We're going to do a fundraiser for the podcast in September. It's going to be casino night.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's down our lane.
Yeah.
It's what we do. And anyways, I'm looking into it right now. I'm putting all the logistics together. Would love to have you there. Maybe we can have a video or something. So it's gonna be. We'll let you know the details, but and maybe we can talk about CalCare. It's gonna be a lot of labor people there. But yeah, no. So anything else that we should cover or we should talk about before we let you go? I think we're almost at an hour.
Yeah,
And
no, I mean, truly, I already said it, but the campaign isn't over. We're just regrouping. Ways to keep in touch with the campaign is Instagram. And also if people want to sign our petition still, if you work, if you're in IATSE, if you work in Hollywood, please sign the petition. I'm kind of figuring out a way to keep better track of all of our supporters. We have hundreds and hundreds of people who are following the campaign and want to like plug in when they can be useful. I'm just like trying to figure out how to keep them all straight. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, I am so grateful for you having me back on because honestly, this issue is not people aren't hearing about it. And that has been the most devastating part about all of this is that they got what they wanted. They got to squash, kill CalCare in the shadows, and they cut us off at the knees. And they did it because they knew that this was the biggest coalition, the strongest coalition that had ever been behind CalCare, and that they knew that if it had gotten to the assembly floor, it would have passed because the bill's author knew that he had the votes. And then you're talking about, hot strike summer times two. If this summer, if CalCare was in, getting ready to go to the Senate, it would have been a bonanza. Like we all would have been out in the streets for CalCare, and they were able to avoid that. So hopefully we'll be back, and we're going to come back strong in 2025. And the next 6 months hopefully can be really when we start racking up these endorsements without this the fire. Like the legislative calendar can move so quickly once the bill is introduced in like January, February. So if we're able to shore up more like enthusiastic support in the next 6 months when we have a bit of breathing time, I think we can come back stronger next year. Hopefully that's CNA's plan. And hopefully we can do it together and, just keep growing the movement. But I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, we're grateful for you, Carolyn, and I that tip of the iceberg that you talk about, that really, how giving control back to the workers instead of the trillion, and I do believe that is the tip of the iceberg.
And you know what they say, like this is not like a setback. This what is it?
Hey, look, hey, it's
What is it saying?
Well, I
It's
was
just a
gonna,
setback,
I was
all
gonna
right?
say, hey,
It's-
this is something worth fighting for. It really is. I mean, people don't give up. I mean, you imagine, I'm sure there's setbacks for other injustices. Can you imagine if someone said, hey, no, we can't get rid of slavery, it's too hard? No, there's people that go and go and go. And this is about helping the populations that are most affected. And that's what CalCare does. And that's what universal health care does.
Definitely. All right, everybody. Well, that's another episode of Union or Bust. Please sign on to our Patreon. Support us. We don't normally promote our Patreon, but we're starting to because we need money, and all of this takes money. So please support us. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much. Solidarity.